A report by the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that 7.1 million Nigerians are in need of life-saving humanitarian assistance. 27,000 people are reportedly killed, with thousands of women and girls abducted and forced in sexual slavery and other forms of inhuman treatments. 1.8 million Nigerians have fled from their homes and are internally displaced, majorly in Borno State. This has raised, most certainly, some very, very serious humanitarian circumstances in the northeast of Nigeria. And of course, when the law was signed, the Northeast Development Commission Act was signed into law, the Vice President expressed in May that with the commitment of those who have been appointed to run the affairs of the NEDC, we're bound to see a great deal of improvement in the pace of rehabilitation and construction of the Northeast. How far so far? From that report you've seen about 6 months ago, we ought to be seeing expedited action and hearing a lot of improvements in the lives of people living in that area. How far so far is what we'd like to look at this morning. We have with us a humanitarian worker and founder of Gabasawa Women and Children Initiative, Doris Yaro, with us here this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the NEDC Act came into force in about 6 months ago.
Yes.
How far so far?
Well, life is getting better than previous years. People are coming out of the camp. You know, since this is the 10th year of the insurgency, and according to report, about 2 million people were displaced, some in camps in Maiduguri majorly. And they lost their livelihood, lost their homes, lost even family members. But now the situation is getting better, and we thank God for our proactive governor. That's in the person of Professor Babagana Umar Zulum. He is doing his best. He's passionate about the people. He's compassionate also about the people. So there is a lot of improvement, especially in Borno State.
That definitely is good news to hear, because it doesn't sound like what we hear all the time. But
Yes.
then, so what are the humanitarian crises that's is being talked about all over the place?
Well, as I said, people lost their homes, their livelihood, a lot of destruction. Like some of the local government, it was a zero level. They leveled it down. And of course, women, 80% are women and children. About 25% are children who are under 5 of age, and women. So there is a problem of shelter, food, health issues also. And, it's easy to destroy, but so difficult to build. So there is issue of reconstruction, resettlement, and rehabilitation. And then majorly, there is need of maximum security, because these people are majorly farmers. And because of the insurgency, many of them cannot go to farm.
So just very, very quickly, this report from the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs lists 7.1 million Nigerians in need of life-saving humanitarian assistance. What are these life-saving humanitarian assistance needed?
Okay, health support is very important, because most of the health facility has been destroyed. As I said, they need food, they need shelter, they need empowerment, they need security also, they need confidence, they need also trauma therapy, because they've been traumatized. Many of them, like the elderly ones, they are having symptoms of Alzheimer's, because they've been traumatized. And then issue of health like high blood pressure and stuff like that. So these are the situation. And then the youth also are really are confused because...
But just one moment, Kadi. How impactful is the volume of money that's said to have been spent over the past 10 years? We understand something well above 1 trillion naira has been spent. Even before the NEDC Act came into force, you know, a lot of money has been spent over the years. Is it in the delivery or in the availability of the resources?
Well, to me, I'm a humanitarian person. I'm not a politician. I'm not in the government. All what I would know, they have done their best, but they need to try, because if nothing is being done, the people will soon lose their humanity, and it will just be numbers.
You know, as much as you probably try to stay away from that, understanding the position you're in, money is a big deal. And if you look at the statutory transfer in the 2020 budget, for example, for the NEDC, that's the Northeast Development Commission, rather, you see that about 38 billion naira has been budgeted for the NEDC. That's good. I mean, that's good if you look at that on paper. And there's always this talk about funds. So I'd like to find out from you. You're on the ground. I know you're smiling, but I need to find out still. If enough funds are available, just imagine we have all the funds we need to build the houses, to ensure, you know, adequate resources are available. Do you think all the problems will be solved?
This is a big question. In a way, if the funds are available, some of the problems will be solved. Like if people are being empowered, especially the youth, they will not involve themselves in some of these things that are happening. And then families and the elderly ones will be settled. Well, how is it? How are we going to do it? Who are to do it? You understand? But I learned that they have plans for that. And I trust this government. They are zero tolerant to corruption. So we bank on their promises.
When you say they, so just one more. When you say they,
the government.
Federal or state?
Both. They say they have zero tolerance of corruption. Okay. So we are taking them by their word that they will do that. And if they will do that, the problems will be solved. But it will take time. It is like cancer, you know, when it has eaten up, for it to be healed.
Chemotherapy might take time.
Of course.
Okay. The reason I ask is I recall you said something about education, that education is actually a major tool to ensuring that we reverse this trend. So yeah, funds on one side, but then let's look at education. How are we doing when it comes to education in the Northeast?
Education is paramount and it's very, very important. Empowerment, youth development is very, very important. The government is doing his best. As I said, we have a proactive governor who is really working. They just came in. So, but what he has done so far these few months is really impressive. And we know he has a greater thing to do. And then the new people that are now in the commission, they are people of integrity. So I believe they will do the right thing. And education is very important because most of these children or these youth, they are ignorant. They are being brainwashed. They are not aware of nothing. So if they are educated, they will not do that. And there will be peace, there will be tranquility in the community. And then apart from the circular education, peace building should come up also. We should educate people that you need to live in peaceful coexistence, you know, despite your religion, your background. So all this has to come.
Last week, we hosted one of the aides of the governor whom you've been talking about. His name escapes me now. But he was talking about the fact that it's not just the fact that money, it's not just an issue of money. You know, Kyle talked about 38 billion naira, you know, earmarked for this. It's not just about the money being available, but coordination among all those who will, you know, effect all of these changes that are being talked about. How tough is it to coordinate this? Because just as you said, the federal government is there, the state governments are there, and then there are humanitarian organizations, UN, local, you know, humanitarian organizations. What's the problem with the coordination?
Well, the coordination is a bit challenging because people with different belief and background, you know, coming together, and everybody has his own mindset. But I believe the people in authority now, they will be able to coordinate that. But we as humanitarian people working there, we do our own part in the area of education, health, rehabilitation, and trauma therapy. We do our own best. But the coordination is challenging. And then also, I will challenge our leaders to be passionate, to be compassionate. People are suffering. People are dying. Even after the killing and stuff, people are dying naturally because of trauma, because of one thing or the other. People are dying daily. You understand? So there is need of our stakeholders to have compassion.
Is this part of what you observed from your visit, your recent visit to the North? Tell us your experience.
Well, my experience is this, as I said, life there is better, but there are some silent situations that is not, you can't see it clearly until when you go to the grassroots.
Okay.
Because some of the areas is difficult to reach, like some of the international agency, they go to the metropolitans, and they try to go to some of the villages, but some of the hamlet is really, really difficult and tough and dangerous to reach there. So it's a big sad. Like I went to one of the villages, you see elderly people are suffering because they have lost their homes, they have lost their livelihood, they can't even feed. And at times the government is not aware, at times the agency are not aware because it's a difficult terrain. So,
Okay.
but there is improvement.
Okay, good. Perhaps that also is as a result of one deradicalization school or so that we heard in Gombe. How effective is that? How effective is the deradicalization, program that governments at all levels are coming up with?
Yeah, different agencies are doing a lot of programs. As I said, peace building, awareness, bringing people together, talking to the youth, and some of the agencies also providing empowerment to them. They are doing their best, but as I said, it's very easy to destroy,
right,
but very difficult to build. So this is the situation on ground.
When you mention, the state of health, you talked about old people.
Yes.
And it brings a big question. How well do we, from your perspective, do we seem to value human life? Because I think you mentioned compassion, and that's at the heart of compassion, value for human life. So as a nation, from what you have seen, how well do we value human life? And also, have we learned from what has happened over the past 10 years, the Northeast, the crisis, and all that? Do you think we have learned from this such that it doesn't repeat itself in the future?
We are still learning. But it's so sad that majority people, what they do is for selfish interests. But there are people that are really sincere, that are working. But we have to be careful because this thing can spread. And this thing may force. And it also, there is a way it degenerates and make people to have to forget. As I said, they take statistics. But if something is not done, we will soon lose the humanity aspect, and it will just be numbers. So that's the sad thing, although it's a bitter truth.
Talking about numbers, we understand that over 100 children of girls of Chibok are still missing at this moment. What's the state of their mothers?
Well, they are still sad. Because I'm a mother. For over 5 years, you've not seen your daughter. You don't know her situation, what she's going through. So they are sad. And some of them are having like blood pressure. Some of them are having like, they are traumatized. Like I spoke with one yesterday. So when we were talking, she said she's fed up and tired of all these promises and a lot of calls interviewing her. She's fed up. Or what she wants her daughter to be back home.
As far as they are concerned,
yes.
Do you think they believe that government is doing anything?
Some of them, they are not really happy, and they can't be happy. But I believe the government is doing his best. But as a mother, if your daughter is not back for 5 years,
It's a major one.
Yeah.
You know, there's a government and there's all the expectations we have from government. But we understand that government is not the only active player in the Northeast. We have humanitarian organizations. You mentioned, you know, some of their roles. And also in recent time, we've seen some scrutiny when it comes to the roles of some aid organizations. I'm sure you saw some stories. And
Yes.
it begs the question, how well do we scrutinize? What kind of requirements do we have for aid organizations such that in a bid to try to quell the tension, we don't open doors to, you know, some organizations that have, you know, sinister motives?
Yeah, in the past, so many non-governmental organization and agency went, trooped in, and they did their best, and some did funny stuff. And later, when it was discovered, the government has done something. And presently, our leaders are really taking action. And some of them are even like, I think they have revoked their activities there. And they are trying to take statistics, they are trying to make sure that they are genuine people and they are doing the right thing. Yes.
You said...
They are strict about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leaders taking action, being, which are these leaders you're talking about?
We have the governors,
Okay.
we have the board members, the senators,
Yeah, I was
the
going to ask about the
stakeholders.
teenagers, the senators and the members of the House of Representatives and all. How effective or what kind of responses do you think? Because at the end of the day, the people in these IDPs that you talk about, you are perhaps one of the few voices that they have that to be able to give, you know, that to be able to voice their opinions and voice their emotions to government. So as far as these people are concerned, do you think they feel the impact of the people who are supposed to be representing them at the Senate or the House of Representatives? Please be honest.
Well, when we conducted some interviews, some of them, they are not happy, and maybe they didn't understand, you know, because we have categories of people, peasant farmers, illiterate, so they don't understand. They only see the people that come to them directly, so they feel that these are people that are sympathetic with us, these are people that really care for us. That's what they think. You understand, and you won't blame them for that. But we appeal to our stakeholders to really come and see what is happening. Okay. Because if nothing is being done, it will turn to something else. Yes.
Well, you have given a lot of kudos to the governor
Yes.
and, you know, perhaps on a few other stakeholders. What
Yes.
are those things that you would say, in your opinion, are urgent that need to be intervened in right this moment so that the humanitarian assistance needed can be quelled as quickly as possible and as much as possible to affect as many people as possible?
Honestly, there is need of maximum security, not only in the metropolitan, but in villages, in the hamlets, in the roads. There should be maximum security because our people, most of them are farmers. Now they can't go to farm because they are scared that when they go, they can be attacked. So maximum security should be looked at. Then secondly, the agricultural sector should be improved and should be looked at and should be provided because these are the major lively or income generating stuff that they have. Then the third thing is youth development because most of the youth are displaced. Most of them, they can't go to school where they were schooling before. Some of them were doing this Okada, the motorcycle, but now they no longer do it. So they are just roaming around. Some of them, they come to Lagos, and when you go to the suburb, you see them there going into drugs. And if nothing is being done, they can become nuisance and they can become terror. So youth development should be looked at. Then women economic empowerment. Women should be empowered so that they will provide for the family because they are the most affected people. Then health facility, adequate health facility should be provided, because most of the health facilities have been destroyed by the Boko Haram. So the health facilities should also be provided. And then peace building.
Okay.
Because people are being grieved, so there should be this peace building coming together.
All right.
Yes.
Madam, you know, we could go on and on. It's something that is really, really touching. You know, this kind of conversation is really very touching. But we have to thank you very much for being a part of this and for all the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Doris Doro is a humanitarian worker and founder Gabasawa Women and Children Initiative. Once again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll be back to take some of your messages, anyone that we have, in a moment. Please stay with us. Well, I guess we can say this is the most we can take of all of the conversations today. We want to thank you very, very much for being a part of the conversation. Of course, you can keep them coming via emails and tweets and other whatever comments you may have on all of our social media platforms. But for now, we have to say thank you very much for watching. I'm Ayo Makinde.
And I'm Kayode Okikiole.
And I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Thank you so much for watching.